we go.
Robservations with Robert, Meyer, Burnett.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your archbishop of Banterbury, your chancellor of cheerfulness, your evangelist of the imagination, and your existential Mr. Rogers, Robert Meyer Burnett. And I am, of course, Robcasting at you imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. How are you all today? Anything on your minds? Let's face it, boy, there's been one topic that's been burning up the fan community, the internet, interwebs. Everyone's talking about it. And no, I don't mean the ever-expanding Hex. I mean Gina Carano being fired from The Mandalorian. Was she, though? Like, was she really fired? What's really going on? What's really happening? What do we know? To tell you the truth, I don't know. We don't really know. We've heard reports. Does anybody know anything? But I figured I did want to weigh in and talk about it only because I feel like it's my obligation to all of you imagination connoisseurs who keep asking me about it. I mean, let's face it, I'm late to the party. You can listen to a million YouTube pundits talking about Gina Carano being fired on both sides of the is it an aisle? How about both sides of the great digital divide that makes up the internet, depending on what side you're on? And I have to say, both sides, I've heard cogent arguments and some impassioned pleas from both sides of that digital divide. And there's a lot to say, there's a lot to ponder, a lot to think about. But I kind of wanted to take a different tactic or look at it from a different perspective. Now, the perspective I wanted to start with was I did a story on Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire a couple weeks ago. And I was looking at it from the position of the fact that the Daily Wire is now a new player as far as movie distribution is concerned. And that was where I was coming from. As you know, I am an independent filmmaker myself, and I have a movie that is currently playing the festival circuit, which is Tango Shalom, that obviously we are looking for distribution. So whenever a film gets picked up for distribution, I'm pretty interested in how that film received distribution. And the fact that the Daily Wire, Ben Shapiro's company, acquired a movie, their first movie for distribution, was interesting to me. And as far as independent filmmaking goes, it's always good when there is somebody new distributing films that has some kind of backing or financial wherewithal to make it worth the while of the filmmakers. And their movie that they picked up was Run, Hide, and Fight. And it was produced by Dallas Saunier under his Bonfire Legend banner. Now, Dallas Saunier produced previously movies like Bone Tomahawk, The Brawl in Cell Block 99, and Dragged Across Concrete. Hard-hitting movies, all three of which I enjoyed. So it was interesting to me that Run, Hide, Fight, I don't know if there were a lot of studios that rejected that film because of its rough subject matter. Young terrorists take over a school, hijinks ensue. Obviously, guns in schools, teachers getting killed, students getting killed. Talk about a hot potato of a film subject. There you go. It's understandable why no major American or mini-major American distributor picked up the film. So I don't begrudge anyone, but it was interesting to read today that Gina Carano has struck a deal or has made a deal with the Daily Wire to make a film. Now, for those of you who might not have heard this particular story yet, I figured we'd just take a quick gander at it so you'd understand what I was talking about. So this was in Deadline today, and as everybody knows, Deadline is the online, there's Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, and Deadline. Deadline's usually where news first drops. Gina Carano hits back, announces new movie project with Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire. They can't cancel us if we don't let them. Andreas Wiseman wrote this at 9 o'clock this morning. Exclusive, less than 24 hours after her explosive ouster from the Star Wars series The Mandalorian for incendiary social media posts, Gina Carano has hit back at her detractors and revealed a new movie project she's making with conservative website The Daily Wire. Carano told us today, quote, "The Daily Wire is helping make one of my dreams to develop and produce my own film come true. I cried out and my prayer was answered. I'm sending out a direct message of hope to everyone living in fear of cancellation by the totalitarian mob. I have only just begun using my voice, which is now freer than ever before, and I hope it inspires others to do the same. They can't cancel us if we don't let them." Dank Farrick, as her Mandalorian character would say. Carano will develop, produce, and star in the upcoming film, which the Daily Wire says it will release exclusively to its members as the company looks to bolster its entertainment division. Details are being kept under wraps, but it will be produced as part of Daily Wire's partnership with Bone Tomahawk producer Dallas Saunier and his Bonfire Legend banner. So these are the same people that produced Bone Tomahawk, Brawl in Cell Block 99, and Dragged Across Concrete. So they do have a track record of producing really good, if hard-hitting films. I think so. We could not be more excited to be working with Gina Carano, an incredible talent dumped by Disney and Lucasfilm for offending the authoritarian Hollywood left. This is what the Daily Wire exists to do. Provide an alternative not just for consumers, but for creators who refuse to bow to the mob, said Daily Wire co-founder Shapiro. We're eager to bring Gina's talents to Americans who love her, and we're just as eager to show Hollywood that if they want to keep canceling those who think differently, they'll just be helping us build the X-Wing to take down their Death Star, he said. Carano's controversial social media posts, described by Lucasfilm as abhorrent, saw her turfed from The Mandalorian by the studio and ditched by her agency, UTA. The former MMA star and Deadpool actress played bounty hunter Cara Dune on the first two seasons of Lucasfilm and Disney Plus's hit series. The actress raised hell by sharing a TikTok post comparing the current divided political climate in the U.S. to Nazi Germany. That's another thing. Did she really do that? So here's the tweet. It's in this, or the TikTok. Here's what she was saying. She said, Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that different from hating someone for their political views? She wrote. Another photo on Carano's Instagram story featured a person with several masks covering their face and head with the caption, "Meanwhile in California." Both posts were scrubbed from the actress's Instagram yesterday, but others picked it up and reposted. The actress has previously courted controversy for posts about election fraud and gender pronouns. Last month, we revealed the right-wing site The Daily Wire acquired its first feature film, school shooter movie Run, Hide, Fight, produced by Dallas Saunier under his Bonfire Legend banner. Daily Wire says the film drew more than 300,000 views during its 3-hour live stream premiere. I mean, that's pretty great. 300,000 views for a movie. I don't know how much they charged for it, and I don't know what the financial deals were, but if they charged, say, I don't know, $9, not a bad take. The new alliance with Carano raises the prospect of the Daily Wire's film operation becoming a home for those going against the Hollywood grain in controversial ways. Not that Disney will be too worried about that, however. Carano is represented by Scott Karp. Scott Karp at the Syndicate. So, that's the story. Gina Carano is producing a new film, and gosh, good for her, because let me tell you, having a production deal is obviously something any filmmaker wants. I certainly would like to work with that film company myself, actually, if I had a chance to do it. But I first of all, before I get into what I think about these new developments, I wanted to address a few things about Gina Carano, because people have asked me what I thought about all of this. Look, I was raised a Jew. I went to Sunday school for a decade. And when I got older and when I was going to be bar mitzvah, I had to go to Sunday school on Sundays and Tuesday nights. So when you're Jewish, and I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, mostly the 70s I was going to Sunday school, but a little bit in the 80s. Every year you met speakers that would come to temple, and they would speak about the Holocaust, survivors, people that actually had tattooed numbers on their wrists because they were in a concentration camp. And I heard a number of those people speak directly. And this wasn't in a big lecture hall, or we might have 20 kids in a room, and they would come and speak to us. So I know a little something about that. I've heard directly from survivors' mouths, and many have different stories. And you can't grow up being Jewish not having the Holocaust and what happened to not just 6 million Jews, but millions of other people that were interned in concentration camps during World War II. It was a truly monstrous period of human history, and it was industrialized extermination of human beings. It was methodical, it was planned, it was meticulously carried out, and it was made possible because of both the complicity of a population of civilians and a war machine. And part of that war machine's mandate was to exterminate every Jew in Europe. These are historical facts. Hell, you can go visit where they did. I mean, the Germans were so efficient at what they did. There's meticulous records of almost everybody that was exterminated. So it's not something that is for debate for all you Holocaust deniers. You can go find all the information you want. But anyway, so when I read this quote, I was perplexed by what I read, because Gina Carano's quote, and I will read it once more: Jews were beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. Because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How that is any different from hating someone for their political views. She wrote. She didn't mention Republicans. She didn't mention Democrats. She didn't mention liberals or conservatives in that tweet. What she said was correct. That's what happened in Nazi Germany. And, it was even more insidious because Jewish businesses, for instance, were taxed out of business. Everything that Gina Carano wrote in this post, it was a lot worse than what she wrote about. And what she said was correct, to the point where when Jews were forced to wear gold stars of David on their clothing, their friends, their neighbors, people they'd known and done business with for a very long time were complicit in what happened. And it was a horribly monstrous time. I mean, imagine if you will, for a moment, that you and your family lived in a house, multi-generations lived in a house for, say, 150, 200 years. And one day, your government came along and they said, you know what? We're acquisitioning this house. It's no longer yours. You have no rights under the law. We are taking this house. You can grab a few of your possessions, but everything in this house and this house itself is now ours. Your neighbors on either side, assuming they weren't Jewish, did they say anything? Did they help? No. And that's what went on. One day, a group of people that had been living in an area for a very long time were just declared to be lesser. Not even your rights under the law, human beings, you were not anymore. And you were hauled away and killed by an industrial complex that was designed to do nothing else but murder you and everyone else that shared your beliefs. These were religious beliefs, but they were also, Judaism is not just about what you believe in terms of your God. It's a whole way of life. It's a whole philosophy. It has to do with family and education and being excellent, being the best you can be. There's a lot of other things that go into it, but people were hated because they were Jews. They were hated because of what they believed. And Gina Carano and part of those beliefs were political. And what Gina Carano wrote in this post was absolutely correct. It was not anti-Semitic. She was drawing, this tweet that she was making was she was making an allegory for what happens, and she didn't say what their political views were supposed to be. She just said, how is that different from hating someone for their political views? Well, it's not. So that TikTok video that came out, I was curious because when I started reading that, I thought there was more to it, where she was actually drawing direct parallels to specific groups of people. But in general, she was saying that, well, how is that different from hating someone for their political views? Well, it's not that much different. I mean, and it's just the beginning. It's the beginning of things. You know, there's the old adage you hear, you know, I didn't speak up when they came for the trade unionists because I wasn't a trade unionist. I didn't speak up when they came for this person because I wasn't that person. I didn't speak up when they came for this person because I wasn't that person either. And then when they came for me, there was nobody left to speak up. I mean, I guess growing up a Jew, you hear these things all your life. I mean, you're sort of steeped in all of this. Now, a lot of other people that were upset with her because on her Twitter bio, she put beep, bop, boop with those slash marks, which is what your pronouns are supposed to be. Or you're supposed to declare your pronouns in that way. And instead of using pronouns, she was saying beep, bop, boop. My pronouns are I, me, and mine. But can I say that? I mean, look, here's the thing that I find honestly quite terrifying about all of this. As someone who last year was on the verge of complete cancellation, I know what it's like to suddenly have people turn on you for one tweet and come after you. I mean, it was amazing. People that I work with that I've never had a conflict with in my life, who knew very little about me, were going on social media and calling me a trash person, which I found interesting considering, I mean, and there were some girls that were saying it. I'm like, hey, man, I never dated you. Come on, what's up? I never borrowed money from you. Why are you calling me a trash person? When have I ever done anything wrong to you except be nice and smile and work well? But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So as far as this is concerned, so she's expressing points of view. That said, when you are working in a high-profile position for a large company that has a certain reputation, if you're hired to work on something, like, for instance, say, Disney. Now, when you're working for Disney on an incredibly high-profile project, and we live in a world now where you're not just representing that high-profile project while you're working, because now, especially if you're working on a movie or a television show, and these television shows are ongoing. We've now had 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. Obviously, it takes time to make The Mandalorian. So when you're not actually on the clock on a show, you're unfortunately representing the show and the company 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, whether you want to or not. That's part of the job. And I would think that anybody who works in motion pictures or television or any kind of media would understand this. Your life and what you say is no longer simply yours, rightly or wrongly. When you sign up to be on a show like that, especially a very, very high-profile show like The Mandalorian, rightly or wrongly, there's a part of your life that you must forfeit while you are on that show. Or maybe not, forfeit's not the right word, but you at least have to be mindful that wherever you go, for instance, let's say you are going out to dinner. And I don't know, some 8-year-old Star Wars fan sees you at dinner, and you've worked on a Star Wars show, and comes up to you and asks you for an autograph or wants to tell you how much your character means to them or something. You know, it's probably best to not look at that 8-year-old kid and go, fuck off, kid, I'm eating dinner. Fuck you, get away, get out of my face. Would you do that? Would you as a star do that? No. Or maybe you would, I don't know, but I wouldn't advise it. You know, and we live in now a situation, we live in a world where the situation, rightly or wrongly, if you choose the mantle of becoming a person on a high-profile show, you also have to understand there is something that goes along with that, a responsibility that goes along with that is always going to be a part of your life and probably a part of your life forever if you stay on that show for quite some time. And you just have to understand that. You have to understand that. And that is part of what it means to work on a show. Because you're not just representing yourself anymore. You're not just even representing the company that made the show. You're representing everyone that works on that show as well. So you might be the most high-profile person or one of the second most high-profile people on the show, but there's hundreds of people that work on that show alongside you. And their jobs are at stake. Their reputations are at stake. I mean, you have a responsibility to your fellow castmates and your crew and the company that's paying for the show that you're working on. And this is something that it needs to be understood by anybody that's going into the entertainment business, or anybody that's going to, especially an actor, and that takes on that role. You have to understand this. You can't just say, but I'm my own person. You're not your own person. If you want to be your own person, don't take a job on a show like The Mandalorian. Don't do that. Don't take a job on any high-profile movie that has a large audience. I mean, when they start making action figures of you, and they do, I mean, Cara Dune Black Series figures are apparently selling for $100 now on eBay. When someone's making an action figure of you, that's when you know you've arrived, and you need to be very careful about what you do and say in public, because you are no longer your own person. You have bought into representing something that is larger than simply you. So once you have done that, I would think that it would be par for the course that you would understand that there's certain modes of behavior that you have to downplay or at least downshift into in order to, you know, it's not about towing the company line, and it's not about bending a knee to the company that you're working with. It's simply what is understood, and no one's going to put this in a contract. I mean, there might be a morals clause in your contract, or there might be something that says, we expect you to, no one's going to tell you that you must behave this way. You can't litigate that kind of behavior, not really. But it's sort of understood that when you take on this job, you realize that you're representing people, not just the company, but you're representing the whole, everything that you do. You know, it's interesting. One of the reasons that I really enjoy working with John Campea is John Campea, to me, has always been a very straight shooter. And if he has a problem with something that I've done, and this actually happened last year, actually not in 2020, I think 2019, he was concerned about some appearances that I was making on YouTube. And he asked me, he called me up and said, listen, can you come down to dinner? I'd like to talk to you. I'll buy you dinner and we'll have a conversation. I went down to see him and he said, listen, I just want you to be mindful that when you go on certain shows or talk with certain people, that it reflects on me as well, because I have you on my show. You're my co-host, you're my guest star, and I have you on my show 4 times a week. And I've been building an online presence for the better part of 2 decades, and I have you on my show, and I really like working with you, and I think we work really well together. But I just need you to be mindful that when you are on the internet or you're doing something on your own show or on other people's shows, it does reflect back on me. That's all he said, and he bought me dinner. And he was right. He was right, because he has allowed me the joy of being on a show with him. He pays me to be there, but he also expects me to act a certain way, and he's not wrong. And if I want to say or do whatever I want to do, then I shouldn't be on his show. He asked me, he told me what he expected of me, and I accepted. I said, you know what, you're absolutely right. And and if I didn't want to be on his show anymore, or I felt he was overstepping, I could have said, you know what, John, I'm uncomfortable with you telling me what you expect me to do, so I would just prefer to end our association. But I didn't do that, because I enjoy his show, and I like the fact that John called me up and we had this conversation. And I know that John Campea, if there's a problem, he's going to call me up and he's going to say, look, man, here's the deal. I trust him to do that. That's what adults do. We're all adults. We don't have to get all angry. We're supposed to act a certain way with one another. Now, I don't know this for a fact, but there's a lot of things that were going on. Gina Carano did not get fired from Disney yesterday. Whatever was going on behind the scenes that we don't know about had been going on for a long time. Now, I think that her ouster from the role of Cara Dune was something that was happening over a long period of time. And so is her deal with Ben Shapiro, and so is her deal with the Daily Wire. This was not something... Ben Shapiro did not call her up yesterday and say, hey, man, I know you're having a problem with Disney. I know you got fired today. Why don't we do a deal? That's not how Hollywood works. It takes a while. Things are in play. Now, I admire Gina Carano for speaking out, for being the person that she is. I've liked her since I saw her. Well, I don't watch MMA. I'm not really well versed in it, but I really liked her presence in Steven Soderbergh's Haywire. I think it came out in 2011, where even though they might have dubbed her voice because she wasn't the greatest actress in the world, she had a physicality and a presence that made that movie, well, I thought, a joy to watch. So I've been a fan of hers for now a decade, and I really enjoyed her in The Mandalorian. I thought she was great. I liked the character of Cara Dune, and God damn it, they're making so many Mandalorian hot toys, and I want my Cara Dune hot toy figure. I wanted one. I wanted a hot toy figure that had all the accessories, that had a different colored armor. I wanted one, and now I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to get my Cara Dune hot toy figure, and I'm pissed. Yes, I'm being a little bit facetious here. I do want, to be honest, don't get me wrong, I do want a Cara Dune hot toy. But I understand I'm probably never going to get one, at least from Hot Toys, because they're officially licensed. I think many third-party figures are now going to make a Cara Dune hot toy figure. But my real takeaway from all of this is I do enjoy, and I do like to see that Gina Carano was her own person, and that she wasn't putting on some act, whether I agree with her or not, whether she was mocking pronouns. And by the way, I think there's something to be said for that. Anyone who watches this show who knows me knows that I'm a pretty empathetic person, and knows that I am pretty open to everyone. I'm a fan of everybody. I like all humanity in all of its myriad forms. What I do not like is this crazy political correctness where there are people that are self-appointed, or they feel they've been anointed by I don't know who to tell other people what they should do and how to live their lives. I don't like it. I don't understand it. Who made you king and queen, or the arbiter of what's right and wrong on this planet? It's dangerous. And I want to say to people, do you have your own house in order? Is what you're doing, is going after people, public figures on Twitter or whatever, is that helpful or not? What are you doing that's actually helping this planet? How are you helping your fellow man? The way to change, or to There's that old adage. Didn't your mom ever tell you you can get a lot of, you can get more of what you want by using honey instead of other things, whatever that old adage is. And also, if you're working in the entertainment business, you need to mind your P's and Q's. You have to be respectful of the fact that you're not just representing a company, but you're representing all of your fellow crew members and fellow actors. And that could be hundreds of people, not to mention the tens of thousands, if not millions of people around the world that love your character. And it's just a reality of what you have to buy into if you're going to pursue this kind of a career. Now, on one hand, I do admire Gina Carano for sticking by her guns and being the person. I mean, she was an MMA fighter. Trash talk and thumbing your nose at people is part of the job when you're an MMA fighter. You're supposed to do those things. You're supposed to talk trash. You're supposed to be incendiary. You're supposed to, look, if people are taking themselves way too seriously, that's what you do. You talk a little trash at them. You take them down a peg. You make fun of them. That's what they do. That's part of that. That's part of the job when you're an MMA fighter. When you're working on a Disney Star Wars show, perhaps you should tamp that down a little bit. You have to decide. That's up for you to decide. It's not for me to decide. I'm not telling anybody how to lead their lives. I am sad that we are not going to see more Cara Dune, although I don't necessarily believe that that's necessarily the case. Disney is not exactly, hey, they brought James Gunn back, and there's a lot of questionable practices that large companies, not just Disney, that a lot of large companies engage in. And no one is beyond reproach. This idea that we're all pure as the driven snow and so we're able to judge other people, where did that even come from? I mean, come on, go back to the Bible. What do you remember when you start casting stones? Give me a break. One day, examinations or microscopes or whatever are going to be turned back on you. So you really need to keep your house in order. If you're going to go after people, and you're going to call people trash people like I was called a trash person, I'll tell you one thing, as a result of my what happened to me, there are people that work in the same profession that I do. And if I'm ever in a position, and I might very well be, to hire certain people, they will never get hired based on my opinion. And as other people within that same venue will know, I've recommended people for jobs that they have later received. Those kinds of things were forgotten as well. But, I have a long memory. I make a list. I don't have to check it twice. And things will come back to haunt you. So the next time you want to go after somebody or decide to pick a fight or decide that you somehow have the righteousness of whatever behind you, and so you're going to go after someone for what they've said or what they've done, you need to start and think long and hard about your own bad self. Are you pure as the driven snow? Is there something in your past that is somewhat imperfect? Who gave you the right to do something like that? I don't think anybody did. And I think that's what's really interesting about this. So when Ben Shapiro, by the way, who made a deal with Gina Carano, this was something that was in the works. This is not something that happened in the last 24 hours. That's not how the entertainment business works. I applaud whatever their business together is. I applaud that Gina Carano is going to get to make her movie, and she's going to get to make her movie with a new player on the block. I applaud if somebody wants to espouse a certain idea or philosophy within whatever movie they're making. I go with God, because making movies is really, 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 really hard. And anybody that's going to try and make one is an optimist. And I hope the movie's great. I hope that when it gets made, I want to own it on 4K. I really do. And I think, I love it when people turn lemons into lemonade. But I think what we all forget is we live in a complex, nuanced society. And when you read a comment like Jews were being beaten in the streets, not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children, because history is edited, most people today don't realize that. To get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that different from hating someone for their political views? I would say to that statement, bravo, that's exactly what fucking happened, and 12 million people were systematically exterminated by an industrial state that made that occur, that pre-planned it, and they spent a very long period of time dehumanizing members of their own population and the rest of the European population, and they went ahead and they murdered all of those people. And part of the reason they did it was because their friends and neighbors stood by complacent and allowed it to happen. I don't want to see us ever wind up in that position again. So anyway, I just thought that I would say that because everybody's been asking me, what do you think of the Gina Carano situation? Hey, at the end of the day, if Disney made the best decision for them and their fans, I would say if they believe that they did, the marketplace will show whether they did the right thing or not. And as far as Gina Carano is concerned, she took a situation where she gets to be herself. She doesn't allow anyone to tell her what she can and can't say. She makes a deal with people that believe in her, and she's going to go make a movie. This is the way of the world. This is the way things are supposed to happen. And in a way, I find it sort of uplifting in that on one hand, free speech can be upheld, the free flow of ideas can be upheld, and if a company wants to dismiss someone, it's their prerogative to do so. Because if that person was not upholding the values that they believe that they should, or representing their cast and their crew, well, then the right decision was made. But on the other hand, I really love the fact that somebody sticks up for themselves, says what they believe, whether you believe what they believe or not. I think it's more important that people are able, look, ideas being put out into the public sphere can be judged by the public. And they were, and they have been, and they will continue to be. And the fact that people can move and change and move forward and do different things, that's what it's all about. And I think all the way around, this situation is a very interesting one. It's a still evolving situation, but I think we all need to reflect and think about what does it mean? And really put yourself in the place of somebody who might be in Gina Carano's situation. How would you like to be treated? What would you like to happen to you? Anyway, nothing is cut and dried, man. And things, you just never know when you might be the person that finds themselves in Gina Carano's position. On that note, I've got good letters today. Good letters from all y'all. And I love having good letters from you. And actually, I really do have good letters. Because I always have good letters from all of you. Because you people are the greatest audience in YouTube. Or on YouTube. I mean, I have to say that. This audience, you imagination connoisseurs, you guys and girls and kind souls and gentle beings, however you identify, you are all welcome here. And the goal of this channel is to always, always, always have the free flow of ideas. And I try every single day. I try and prove that by how I treat all of you and all of your ideas. And the day that I turn out to be some kind of a monumental D-bag, please call me on it. Anyway, this first letter comes from Marnie Rutland. Dear Rob and the Post-Geek Singularity, I certainly have thoughts and feelings about what has happened to Gina Carano, and I would invest the time into a letter about it, but then it can be flagged as political or not safe space enough because of Gina's chief persecutors, and the letter might be for nothing. I better just make it quick. They say basic management is to criticize in private and praise in public. Lucasfilm, or whoever made the call, knew about Gina's tweeting habits for over a year. They didn't have to let anything blow up. They obviously don't mind High Republic writers making inflammatory posts. The Star Wars Twitter account backed them up against Twitter account backed them up against supposed bullies, so that the question of radio silence about the embattled Gina, whose fights began when she was asked to put pronouns in her Twitter bio, and, as was her right, she did not comply. That put a target on her back. So what I find very interesting is personally, if I might editorialize, why would somebody tell you to put pronouns into your bio? I've never felt the need to use pronouns with myself. Now, if I wanted to use different pronouns than would normally be associated with me, I would. And I would tell people, listen, I would prefer if you address me by these pronouns when we talk. No problem, no harm, no foul. But if somebody asked me, if I was working for somebody and they said, hey, Rob, we need you to put pronouns in your bio. I'm like, why? Why do I need to put pronouns in my bio? I would have a problem with it too. I would be like, I would never do that. There's nothing, why would I need to do that? And even though I know what they were asking me, I would still say, I don't understand why. Please explain it to me. Why do I need to put pronouns in my bio? I speak English. You can use whatever pronouns you want to address me with if you want. But if it's bad grammar, I'll tell you. But anyway, Gina ultimately got fired ostensibly for an allusion to the Shoah and how everyday citizens ended up doing the work of the Nazis for them. She could be accused of hyperbole. That is extremely common. I don't agree that being openly Republican or supporting the January 6th invasion of the Capitol equates with being an ordinary citizen persecuted for religion or race. But Gina's remark was blown out of proportion. I don't agree with her stance on Trumpty Dumpty, but if you often mention the free market of ideas and how a weak argument still has to stand up to tests or scrutiny or peer review, skipping over that process and simply damaging someone's employment as a way to scare off anyone else from voicing a dissenting view is not the way. This anti-Gina thing is driven by the infrastructure of the pronoun brigade. But it isn't as simple as boycotting The Mandalorian because it's not the fault of Favreau or Filoni. Their iteration of Star Wars is too important, especially after listening to the theory about how the sequel trilogy, where Ahsoka is heard as a ghost, steps from the abandoned timeline where Ahsoka was killed by Vader. If she was not there to advise Mando to have Grogu make a call for help, Gideon might have eventually caught him elsewhere and nobody could have saved him. So Ben would be Luke's first child Padawan, not Grogu. Also, Grogu could have then been used to create the final Snoke with his blood. Here's a link to a coherent version of that observation. I am saddened by the twitchy internet managing to take someone down. They should instead be put into an arena with Gina. What happened to, I may disagree with what you have to say, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it. Many action stars are conservative, but we don't have to end their careers for it. Frankly, everyone should have a policy about social media, but if there's nothing about it in Gina's contract, I hope she sues their butts. Maybe they weren't going to have Cara Dune back anyway, and if she was going to be in Rangers of the New Republic, that would have been announced. I don't know. It's damn frustrating. I want to thank Marnie for writing in. I agree with you. And it is true. They have not announced Cara Dune was going to be in any more Star Wars. So when Lucasfilm says that she's not working for Lucasfilm, nor do we plan on having her work for us anytime in the future, I don't think that was a wrong statement. Of course, it's amazing to me that Lucasfilm would allow that situation to move forward and not expect something like this to explode. I think it was handled badly all the way around. But on the other hand, again, when someone tells Gina Carano, who is a strong, powerful woman who worked her way up and made herself an MMA fighter. I mean, apparently I read once that I think she said that her boyfriend got her into it, thought she would enjoy it, and she, lo and behold, did. And I can't believe that somebody expected, when they told her, you need to use your pronouns, or you need to post your pronouns. And when she said, why would I have to do that? I could completely see that. And if somebody asked me to do that, like I said, my pronouns would be I, me, and mine. And you know what? Somebody would take offense to that. They'd be like, they would not understand that I was doing something ironically humorous, showing that, okay, I'll put my pronouns up. But then people would say, you know, Rob, those aren't the right pronouns. They're not? I, me, and mine? Why not? But you know what I mean. The same thing is going to happen. It's what I find so interesting is, why do people, when you go after somebody on social media, I don't understand the glee with which people do it. I mean, if you're going to attack somebody for their views, and you're putting hashtag fire whomever, why do you have to be so gleeful about it? Do you really want to destroy somebody's life? I don't trust anybody that does that. If you put hashtag fire someone, that means you want to see their livelihood destroyed. What about their families? You don't know who Gina Carano might be supporting. What if she has a grandmother in an assisted care facility that's incredibly expensive? What if her grandmother relies on that money that she makes from The Mandalorian in order to keep her in that assisted facility? You go on and you say fire somebody, hashtag it, make it trend on social media. You have no idea how that can affect someone's family, or what the ramifications of that might be for somebody. And it's really easy to tweet hashtag fire whomever. And the fact is, anyone who does that, you're a fucking trash person. You have no idea what you're doing to somebody. You have no idea what you're doing to their family. You have no idea what you're doing to their legacy. But yet, it's really easy to do that because there's no ramifications for you. So the next time anyone out there decides to write hashtag fire this, hashtag cancel that, why not take into consideration for a moment that you, wherever you're sitting, whatever keyboard you're sitting in front of, that you have no idea what the ramifications of something like that could be for the individual you dislike for whatever reason, or members of their family that you'll never meet. And what you're saying could have ramifications in their lives that you couldn't possibly imagine. So, I think Marnie, the end of her letter when she says, damn frustrating. Everybody should have a policy about social media. So, great letter. Thanks for writing it. I appreciate it. Let's see. What do we got here? This one comes from Stephen Goggin, our man Stephen Goggin. And now for a change of pace. Dear Robert and listeners, I have a question about a favorite guilty pleasure movie of mine, and that movie is The Cannonball Run. The question I have is concerning Burt Reynolds' sidekick Victor, who has an alter ego known as either him or Captain Chaos. Does Captain Chaos in The Cannonball Run make the film a superhero movie? That's all for now. Yours truly, Stephen Goggin, an Irishman in Somerset. P.S. I love the new show with Dieter, Let's Get Physical Media, and I really enjoyed the Western reviews on whining about movies. They were ace. They were ace. Elizabeth brings a lot to that. Stephen, thank you for the delightful change of pace today. That's up to you, and I think that's up to the chat. That's up to the audience. What do you all think? Do you think that The Cannonball Run could be a superhero movie? Could it be considered a superhero movie? I would say no, because I think by definition then the movie would have to be about somehow superheroing in some way. One of my favorite superhero movies, and a lot of people forget it, is a movie called Hero at Large. And it stars John Ritter and Ann Archer. And if you've never seen Hero at Large, as a matter of fact, let's use the internet and let's see if you can see Hero at Large. Let's see if there's a trailer. I bet there is. Boom, there's a trailer. I'm going to put it right in the live chat. So watch this trailer. If you've never heard of this movie, this is a delightful movie, and it's called Hero at Large. And I would ask you to watch it. There's the live chat. You guys, check that out. Let's see what this letter is from. Livia's other son, that SOB Patrick. Hey, friends. I sit here with exactly 53 minutes till the next WandaVision episode. 8-year-old me is giddy. Old man me is giddy. Even though the Star Wars sequel trilogy petered out, it still made me giddy. Why is that? The fact that the comics, Marvel, and the original trilogy, yes, the Star Wars, help make me feel this way despite some pitfalls, or am I just a fan happy for content, even though it can suck as bad as Rise of Skywalker? Alex, my 15-year-old son, has watched your script reveal for Trevorrow's version, Duel of the Fates. I can't say I have. Listening to what could be a regretful reveal from you towards what and how they fucked it up impacts me, truthfully. I've said this before. Lucas's commentary on Episode 3 had impacted and frustrated my feelings so much, there is no joy watching it at all. After that, it changed my view on fandom, on my fandom. I'm not going to let interpretations of characters and storylines screw with my viewing, reading, listening, or whatever. As long as I can find what is at the core of the characters, familiar and present to the main interpretation, I'm okay. That said, I still obsess about what could have been. I think we all do that. Never in my life did I think I would see one feature film series about Spider-Man, let alone 4. Yes, 4. Miles is animated for now, but he is coming really soon to live action. Bet on it. JJ's comments about not pleasing all fans, so fuck it, brings this topic for me that I'm writing about to an angry head. Why? Why start from a place like that? No respect for fans and what has come before? Period. Sound familiar? He's pals with the jackass that's killing my other favorite science fiction. Why is deconstructing every bit of our genre stories so popular? Is it because nothing else has come up in these writers' rooms for inspiration? Should Star Trek even be deconstructed? The point is being the best in the world and the universe. We've reached our potential. Why else did the Vulcans visit when we achieved warp drive? They deemed we had advanced intellectually enough for a visit. Right now, they drive right on by. We are literally spaceballs in this galaxy. Spaceballs? There goes the neighborhood. Thank God for Kevin Feige. And yes, Disney with a $ is the S. If Disney did not purchase Marvel, he probably left a long time ago because of billionaire moron Marvel owner Ike Perlmutter's constant interference. We as fans need to take a step back. Really. Take that step back, look around, maybe say hi a little more to each other. Discover conversation. It's a lost art on those entering their mid-30s and younger. Our little bit of pop culture popularity is not going to last forever. We need to enjoy the ride a little more, instead of jumping off the bike while going downhill to scream how much you hate or what to boycott next. Appreciate what we have and constructively criticize. Again, never did I ever think Star Wars fans would actively ask for Uncle George's return after all the rude treatment, name-calling, incessant whining, and abuse he had to endure from 1997 to 2011. Think about how you treat others. Someone might not respect you, but respect yourself first and foremost, and go from there. Please. Isn't this the golden age of genre storytelling we are in worth maintaining? For me and my family, it is. Find that fun kid in you, and stop worrying about social commentary and storytelling. It's always there for the most part. Can it suck? Yes. But wouldn't you rather talk about what you liked more? rather than just focusing on being insulted by the issues someone told you or found by being, well, sensitive? I'm not trying to be insulting, but let's be real. Find the 8-year-old inside of you who wants to just enjoy the content. Then do it. Reduce the clutter. Still hoping for a better outcome. Patrick Anthony Bonfoglio Soprano, Livia's other son. Well, Patrick, I have to say, I don't relate to what you're saying because, God damn it, my 8-year-old self is with me every moment of every day. I am here. I mean, I am so here. Let me just show you how 8-year-old I am. So, everyone knows I like action figures with chairs, right? So this is my John Travolta from Pulp Fiction figure. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing right now is a couch. And this couch came with this figure. And it's even got throw pillows that I haven't opened up that go there too. And wait, somewhere, where did it go? Oh, it's around here somewhere. Now, when I look at the fact that I can buy a John Travolta from Pulp Fiction action figure and the accessories it comes with are a couch, and I actually get excited about that, my first thought is, what's wrong with me? But my second thought is, somebody made a Pulp Fiction action figure of John Travolta, and they decided to put a couch in it. What's not to love? I don't know. So yes, Patrick, I drink to you, sir. We live in a wonderful world that's not always wonderful, but for the most part, if you decide to find that 8-year-old child in you, and mine never left, it's a good way to live. This one comes from William La Rochelle. William La Rochelle. Hi, Rob. Considering the well-known case of Harlan Ellison's episodes of The Outer Limits, Demon with a Glass Hand, and Soldier, potentially unconsciously influencing James Cameron for Terminator and leading to an after-the-fact acknowledgement, I wonder why some other shows did not create similar controversy. I've recently watched Amazing Stories from 1985 to 1987 on DVD, and about a third of the season 2 was new to me despite my ritual taping of most of them on VHS when they aired. An anthology show can be used as proof of concept for countless features. Remote Control Man by Bob Clark has a similar premise to Stay Tuned by Peter Hyams. Boo by Joe Dante has essentially the same premise as Beetlejuice. The original couple owning a house have to scare off a shallow new couple moving in. Miscalculation has John Cryer spreading chemicals onto fashion magazines to conjure a girlfriend for himself, much like Weird Science. The Eternal Mind has Jeffrey Jones as a dying scientist who decides to import his mind into computers, much like Lawnmower Man or a later Johnny Depp movie, Transcendence. These are but a few. The most interesting is Life on Death Row, directed by Mick Garris, with story credit. It involves a compassionate guard working on death row where an inmate due to be executed has the power to heal by touch. Eventually, the warden needs him to heal a family member. This is about 10 years before Stephen King wrote the serial novel The Green Mile. This episode, Critters 2, and an episode of Freddy's Nightmares and Psycho 4 are the Garris directing credits that led to Stephen King's Sleepwalkers in 1992, which, by the way, I worked on. And it is the best sample he could have shown King. Yet I've never read of any connection or heard it referred to on a post-mortem episode. It is only after buying and binging season 2 of Amazing Stories that I finally caught this episode on physical media. But it may now be on Amazon Prime. That's a really good look. I think that's a really good point, William. It's the adage. It's the age-old question, actually. You know, always steal from the best. And I think that there are certain. I've always felt about it a certain way. I'm like, okay, when it comes to science fiction, fantasy, and horror, there are certain things that I think every human being deals with. For instance, I don't want to die. And if you don't want to die, if you could make a deal to somehow get more life, who would that deal be with? And what would the ramifications of that deal be? I think that's a time-worn storytelling trope that comes out of the idea that none of us really want to die. Hell, none of us want to grow old. I want to have a portrait in the attic aging for me. So there are stories like that. I think story ideas, the kernel of ideas that are always going to be with us. And, the idea of if you see a somebody that's on death row, what if someone was on death row, a death row inmate, and they're innocent? I think that's the beginning of many different storytelling tropes, because what happens to that person? And you can't not think to yourself, well, that's a really interesting story. What would that be like? And I think that's where a lot of these ideas come from. When it comes to computers, the idea that you could download your consciousness into a computer, I think that's something that every author will somehow come up with, any genre author worth their salt. And I think that's where a lot of these ideas come from. But not everybody gets litigious about it, because if you've read a lot, Harlan Ellison, clearly the Terminator has a lot of different similarities to both Demon with the Glass Hand and Soldier. And Harlan Ellison is the kind of guy that would absolutely be he look, that he did that, it makes sense to me, because that's the kind of guy that he is. So yeah, but it's a good question. Where do ideas come from, and how can you protect those ideas? It's definitely something that it's a good question. But I don't think people look, steal from the best. Isn't that the old adage, steal from the best? Or maybe don't steal at all. I don't know. You know what? Marnie Rutland wrote back, and she included the link that she was talking about, the alternate universe thing in Star Wars. I've actually watched this about, did they already deal with look, I don't think that they're going to make the Star Wars sequel trilogy. They're going to get rid of it. They might, but I don't think they will necessarily. But you never know. You never know. Let's see. Where am I? Where am I now? This one comes, our friend Undead Sick writes in again. Undead Sick wrote in the other day, and Undead Sick writes in again. Dear Rob and Elizabeth. Oh, you know what? This is about whining about movies. I should save this. But actually, you know what? I'm going to read this anyway, because it's a good letter. Dear Rob and Elizabeth, I would like to start by saying that I absolutely love your channel. You're possibly my favorite YouTube channel, and the reason for this is because I love how multi-layered and nuanced your criticism as well as your discussions always are. It makes your channel much more real and personal, in contrast to a lot of YouTubers out there who do nothing more than create toxic fandom or basically announce themselves as a devil's advocate to the movie industry. It makes me appreciate your channel and your voice of movies and TV shows even more. One of my favorite things about your channel is, without a doubt, whining about movies. I own most of the movies myself, Physical Media Rules, and I've really enjoyed your discussions with Elizabeth about all of them. That said, I personally feel like there's one thing still missing. You haven't discussed a lot of Italian movies yet. Well, we did delve into La Dolce Vita and The Great Beauty. I myself love the Italian cinema. I do too, as a matter of fact. And I would really feel honored if you would watch more pieces of art from that demographic. Because, in my opinion, Italian cinema has some amazing pieces of art, which I'm sure you'll agree with. I took it upon myself to pick some titles from my own collection for me to recommend to you. So here goes. Cannibal Holocaust, The Beyond, City of the Living Dead, Zombie 2 or Zombie Flesh Eaters, Suspiria, and The New York Ripper. So you're not talking only about Italian movies. You're talking about Italian horror films. And those are not even giallo movies. These are horror movies. Would you be surprised to know I own every one of those movies that you mentioned? Although you did remind me I need to get New York Ripper on 4K. These, in my mind, are some of the top-notch Italian movies of Italian cinema, and I hope one day you will honor me with a discussion with Elizabeth on these movies. I close off this letter wishing you both well, and I hope you will both stay safe and healthy. Keep up the amazing work you do on your channel, and I look forward to your future content. Greetings from the country far, far away, Holland, the undead sick. That's a great list. And look, I'm a huge fan of Italian cinema. Come on, Demons. You didn't have Demons on there. But I love Italian horror. I'm a big fan. Wait a minute, you do have The Beyond on there. And that I would absolutely like to talk about some of these films. And I also like, giallo movies, and I like Italian crime thrillers, and I have a lot of them. So that's a good idea. I will definitely take that under advisement. I think we should absolutely look into some of these movies. So, our friend Mike F. with his cinema game. Hi again, Rob, and to the Post-Geek Singularity. Thank you for playing along on the Academy Awards Best Film Editing Interactive Letter last time, and I'm glad you were able to discuss the art of editing among those variety of award-winning films that I mentioned. I agree with you. All of them are deserving, and they're great examples of why editing is an important component of filmmaking. In another interactive game letter, we are going to discuss Best Supporting Actress. When I look at the winners of Best Supporting Actress at the Academy Awards, I thought almost all of them are deserving, but there are some that people would argue they're not. So what we're going to do is I will name a performance that won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. You will briefly comment about them and say if they deserve it or not. The viewers can also join along through the live chat or in the comments if they're watching through replay. Anyway, are you guys ready? I don't know. Are you guys ready? Are we gonna? These were long. And some of these movies, I got to tell you, I might not have seen. The editorial ones I'd seen all of, so we will talk about them. And I think I've seen all of these, to be honest. Hattie McDaniel, Gone with the Wind. Absolutely. How can you not? How can you not say Hattie McDaniel deserved it? Also, if for nothing else, she deserved it because her win was historic. And I've actually talked about her on this show and winning that award. So she absolutely does. Eva Marie Saint on The Waterfront. Let me tell you, I love Eva Marie Saint. She can do no wrong. Of course she deserved this award. By the way, full disclosure, Eva Marie Saint played Ma Kent in Superman Returns, and I got to hang out with her. And let me tell you, Eva Marie Saint was delightful, and what a firecracker she is. Rita Moreno, West Side Story. I would live anywhere that Rita Moreno in West Side Story. I got to tell you, when I was a little kid, I felt this way. I feel this way now. One of the sexiest women to ever appear on film. My God, is she? Look at the way she moves. Oh, and I want to live in America, just like she did. She's amazing. Estelle Parsons, Bonnie and Clyde. Ooh, that's a good choice. Yeah, why not? I mean, that film's terrific. If you guys haven't seen Bonnie and Clyde with Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty, you have to. It's a great, great film. And it's one of the movies that really announced the new wave of Hollywood that led into the 70s, the auteurist vision, the rebels that sort of changed Hollywood, moving over from the studio system to a more auteurist-based, edgy cinema. Totally great. Beatrice Straight. Oh, no. First of all, Helen Hayes in Airport. Helen Hayes in Airport. I mean, she was great. Well, okay, yeah, I would give that to her. It's just Airport. What a potboiler that movie is. Although I have to say, I do own all 4 Airport movies on Blu-ray. Beatrice Straight Network. Okay, Beatrice Straight, for those of you who might not know, she was in Poltergeist. She was the paranormal investigator. Not Tangina. This house is clean. Not that. She was the other lady. Beatrice Straight rocked in Network. But she was only in it for like 5 minutes. I think that was one of the shortest performances to win an Academy Award or something. Not since Dame Judy in Shakespeare in Love. But Beatrice Straight was great. Mary Steenburgen, great in Melvin and Howard. Love her. Jessica Lange in Tootsie. I just recently rewatched that. Totally deserving. Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost. Absolutely. She was. I mean, I loved her in Ghost. Here's a controversial one. Marissa Tomei in My Cousin Vinny. Look, I think one of the reasons that people said she didn't really win, because it was a more of a light, buoyant, comedic performance. But she was great. She was great in that role. It's just she it wasn't so heavy-handed, and she wasn't acting the way some people do, darling. But she was great in that role. Delightful. Diane Wiest, Bullets Over Broadway, again, a tremendously comedic performance. What's not to love? I mean, people act like you have to like be on death row to win an Academy Award. You have to pretend either that or you're suffering from some terminal illness, and you don't. And Marissa Tomei and Diane Wiest both brought really great comedic chops to those roles and made them indelible. Same with Judi Dench in Shakespeare in Love. I don't know. I mean, I love Judi Dench in Shakespeare in Love. I love Shakespeare in Love. People think Shakespeare in Love is, well, that shouldn't have won Best Picture. Saving Private Ryan should have won Best Picture. And I'm like, Saving Private Ryan is indeed an accomplishment. And I think the first 30 minutes of that movie, the whole Omaha Beach attack, is unbelievable. But the rest of the movie kind of is more, the beginning and the end are really outstanding, but the middle of it is more of a traditional narrative. So I don't think it was groundbreaking, but Shakespeare in Love was monumentally entertaining. Monumentally entertaining. I think Shakespeare in Love deserved to win. I have to say, I've never seen Pollock. Your next one, Marcia Gay Harden in Pollock. I will say this. We just watched, for whining about movies, Marcia Gay Harden in Miller's Crossing, and she was absolutely phenomenal. She's a phenomenal actress, and I would assume if she brought the same level of craft to Pollock, and there's no reason to believe she didn't, I would give that to her. Catherine Zeta-Jones in Chicago. Hell yeah. That fantastic. Fantastic. Again, Catherine Zeta-Jones, love her. And Chicago, Kate Blanchett in The Aviator. Okay. I don't care what anyone says. The Aviator is one of my favorite Scorsese movies. I love The Aviator. I love it, mostly because it's about old Hollywood. I know it gets a little weird in the end, but I love that film. I love I love everything about The Aviator. I love the fact that it begins with the production of Wings. I love that you get to see the Spruce Goose in the movie. I love that Katharine Hepburn is being portrayed by Kate Blanchett. I love that movie, and she is great in it. Jennifer Hudson in Dreamgirls, again, a phenomenal performance. Absolutely, she deserved it. And you follow that up with Monique in Precious. Come on. What a powerhouse performance. I mean, and indelible. You watch that movie, it's like, oh my God. I mean, she doesn't steamroll that movie, but she does a phenomenal job. Anne Hathaway in Les Miserables. I thought she was great. You know, did she deserve Best Supporting? I don't know who she was up against because you haven't provided the year. But yeah, I'll give it to her. I'm an Anne Hathaway fan, so she can do no wrong in my book. Alicia Vikander in The Danish Girl. Honestly, I have not seen The Danish Girl. I know. I haven't seen it. I'm sorry. But I like Alicia Vikander. Allison Janney and I, Tonya, 100%. I love Allison Janney, but that performance, I didn't know she had that kind of a performance in her. Oh my God, what a great performance. For this year, you go on to say, some of the potential contenders in Best Supporting Actress category are Olivia Colman for The Father, Glenn Close in Hillbilly Elegy, Amanda Seyfried for Mank, Maria Bakalova for Borat's subsequent movie film, Yoon Ye-jung for Minari, Ellen Burstyn, Pieces of a Woman. I can't wait to see that movie. Helena Zengel for News of the World, and Jodie Foster, The Mauritanian. Which among them will follow in their footsteps? We'll find out soon, but I wonder if you guys have a prediction as of now. Anyways, thank you for participating in this interactive letter, and live long and prosper. You know what? Hasn't Glenn Close never won an Academy Award? Give it to her. I saw Hillbilly Elegy. She was amazing in that. Give her that award. These are kind of fun games. I like these games, Mike F. They're fun to play. I hope the viewers like them as well. Jason Webster writes in. Jason Webster says, "Hi, Robert. I would like to take this opportunity to discuss the wonderful animated film Spirited Away, directed by the Walt Disney of Japan, Hayao Miyazaki. Released in 2001, the film immediately became a beloved film and an instant classic. The film received universal acclaim by critics and fans alike. Spirited Away tells the story of a young girl named Chihiro Ogino, who has moved to a new neighborhood. Not long after arriving, Chihiro enters into the spirit world inhabited by kami. When the witch Yubaba turns her parents, who are turned into pigs, Chihiro begins working in Yubaba's bathhouse to discover a way to return herself and her parents to the human world. She is assisted in her quest to return home by the spirit of the Kohaku River named Haku, and Yubaba's sister Zeniba. Miyazaki was inspired to make Spirited Away for his friends he acquired through yearly summer vacations at his family's mountain cabin. Miyazaki drew inspiration from reading shoujo magazines, such as Nakayoshi, that were similar to the magazines girls left at the cabin. He felt necessary to produce a film centered around a young heroine that girls could look up to instead of such magazines. The film explores themes including supernaturalism, environmentalism, and the effects of greed and consumerism on traditional Japanese culture. Supernaturalism is represented by the kami that congregate to bathe at Yubaba's bathhouse. Also, when Chihiro reflects on her grandparents' time when villagers revered kami through solstice rituals as opposed to those of her generation. Environmentalism is explored through the characters Haku and the stink spirit. The latter is a river spirit corrupted by filth until he is cleaned by Chihiro. He is a literal metaphor for the pollution of the environment by humanity. Haku is a former river spirit who suffers amnesia. Chihiro knows he used to be a river spirit until the river was replaced by apartments. This represents the cost of environmental destruction. Yubaba is a metaphor for the effects of Western consumerism and greed on traditional Japanese culture. She wears Western clothes, and the bathhouse is adorned with Western furnishings and decor. Filming for Spirited Away began in 2000 on a budget of United States dollars 15 million USD. Walt Disney Pictures financed 10% of the film's overall budget. The characters were predominantly hand-drawn, though there was experimentation with computer animation incorporated into the production of the film through software such as Softimage 30. The undertaking of producing Spirited Away saw Studio Ghibli animators receive assistance from Anime International Company Production IG, Madhouse, DR Movie, O Production, and Telecom Animation Film to successfully complete the project. Pixar animator John Lasseter, a longtime friend of Hayao Miyazaki, had visited Miyazaki to witness the creation of Spirited Away firsthand. Lasseter was blown away by the film and convinced Michael Eisner to acquire the rights to produce and distribute the English dub version in North America. Kirk Wise as director, while Donald F. Ernst joined Lasseter as co-producer. Donald H. Hewitt and Cindy Davis Hewitt wrote the screenplay for the English dub version. David Chase, Donnie Darko, and Jason Marsden, White Squall, provided the voice for Chihiro and Haru, while the late, great Susan Plachette provided the voice for sisters Yubaba and Zeniba. Amongst other cast members providing their vocal talents included the late David Ogden Stiers, John Ratzenberger, Michael Chiklis, and Lauren Holly. Spirited Away was a resounding success critically. The film holds an approval rating of 97% on Rotten Tomatoes, where the consensus among critics was that Spirited Away is a dazzling, enchanting, and gorgeously drawn fairy tale that will leave viewers a little more curious and fascinated by the world around them. Spirited Away received a Metascore of 96 on Metacritic. Elvis Mitchell was one of the numerous critics to positively praise the film. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times called Spirited Away one of the year's best films. Variety's Derek Ellis said of the film that it can be enjoyed by sprigs and adults alike. Ed Gonzalez of Slant Magazine said of the film, Spirited Away also contemplates rifts between the spirit world, though it isn't quite as overwrought as Mononoke. Miyazaki celebrates individualism and nature's simple, untainted beauties, subsequently pondering the transcendent power of communication between the inside and the outside. C.W. Nevius of the San Francisco Chronicle praised Spirited Away as an elegantly crafted film that overall, the result is a lovely, evocative tour de force. Distributed by Toho, Spirited Away received a theatrical release in Japan on the 20th of July 2001. By the completion of its domestic run, the film had earned 30.4 billion yen. It opened in other territories, allowing the film to accumulate 200 million United States dollars internationally before its theatrical release in the U.S. It was the first film to achieve that feat. The English dubbed version by Disney received its U.S. theatrical premiere at the Toronto Film Festival in September of 2002. It received its theatrical release in the U.S. on September 20th, 2002, and earned $10 million by September 2003. Through subsequent releases over the years, Spirited Away has earned a total of $383 million US. The wave of positive critical acclaim the film received soon became an overwhelming tsunami, leading to receiving countless honors during the awards season. The film won 6 Annie Awards, 9 Tokyo Anime Awards, 3 Mainichi Awards, 2 Japanese Academy Awards, and the honor of Best Animated Feature at the 75th Academy Awards. Overall, the film won 36 awards from 39 nominations. For myself, the best thing that can be said of Spirited Away is that its greatness lies not only in the beauty of the animation and the skillful direction of Hayao Miyazaki, but also in the story itself. The sense of childhood wonder and adventure of Chihiko's transitions to the deep understanding and appreciation of the beauty and wonder, not only of life itself, but also of the spiritual world and the natural world, and the responsibility one can have in ensuring their preservation for generations to come, thus making Spirited Away a true coming-of-age film and a masterpiece that is thoroughly entertaining. To yourself and the majestic people that comprise the Post-Geek singularity, enjoy the week and remain safe, healthy, and happy. And that comes from Jason Webster. Man, I love Spirited Away. I'm a huge Miyazaki fan. I mean, all the way back to Nausicaa and My Neighbor Totoro, and I love that stuff. I think it's great. I really enjoy this. So I really enjoy that. I think it's great. Let's see. This one comes from David Kukol. David Kukol. Hello, Rob. I hope you're well. Based on our similar age and some of the British sci-fi fantasy TV series you enjoy, I have to ask you if you're familiar with a gem from the late 70s called Sapphire and Steel. Yes, I am. The titular characters are played by Joanna Lumley, the New Avengers and Ab Fab, and David McCallum, Ilya Kuryakin from The Man from U.N.C.L.E., and Ducky in NCIS. The show was created by P.J. Hammond, and it is bonkers in the best sense of the word. Sapphire and Steel are mysterious elemental forces in human form who are assigned to combat time anomalies, be they resentful ghosts haunting a disused railway station or echoes from the past conjured up by children's nursery rhymes. The pacing is very slow and deliberate, so those looking for fast action need not apply. The strength is the writing, acting, and in a bizarre way, the production value. While a low-budget show, one gets the feeling that the makers really cared about the end product rather than simply collecting their paychecks. There's a lot of attention to detail and establishing the mood and atmosphere. I've shown the series to some friends who became quite addicted to it, but I must say I carefully selected who I showed it to. Sapphire and Steel is definitely not for everyone, but is highly original and is one of my favorite series. The show is issued on DVD in America, but not Blu-ray or high def. Sorry, Robin Dieter. If you like the quirky and offbeat, I'd suggest giving it a try. If you prefer slicker modern works, you may wish to stay away. Keep up the great work, Rob. That comes from David Kukol. I like Sapphire and Steel, but like you said, it's a wacky show, but I love the slow burn. Those actors work really well together. I love Joanna Lumley. I think she's amazing. And David McCallum's cool too. But yeah, it's got good stuff, and it's definitely unique in terms of what it's about. And it's definitely a very enjoyable British show. And you know what? For Americans, whenever you hear British accents, it makes it immediately the show is smarter. Americans, I mean, I do. I'm prejudicial. I love a British accent. And I immediately think the show's better just because of it. Let's see what you guys are saying. Let's jump over. Dare I do this? I'm a little scared, to be honest. I'm a little scared to see what you guys are saying. But I'm willing to overcome my fear and see what we've got here. Okay, let me go back and let's see. Okay, at least this starts out fun. All right, I don't have to be this scared. Okay, let's start out here. Chloe sends in 1 of 3. Just imagine for a moment that you sold your soul to Lucifer to be a famous person. Who would it be? And you have to wake the next morning as that person, but not in their life. You have woken up into a life alone. You may be surrounded by people. You are now living in a world in which you are now the person that you have sold your soul to be. In a world that the person that you sold your soul to be doesn't exist. But you are now them living a life where you are them, just not in their life. With having no memories of anything else. With only the dreams of who you once were in life. What would you have lost, but never knowing who you were? Just that you now want the life of the person in your dreams, the person that you used to be in life. 3 choices. 1 pick, your soul. Let's say that you have written a binding contract to Lucifer to wake up in the life having been born in one of the three choices here. Chloe Grace Moretz, Dakota Fanning, and 3, the person you pick. The life they give, but they get to choose your life, and you shall wait. They get to choose your life, and you wake up in that life. You may get to wake up reliving your life, or you may wake up in the 13th century England, maybe ancient Greece, or you might end up getting burned at the stake. Choose wisely. Well, you've got a bunch of scenarios here, Chloe, and so from what I understand, if I reject your first one. If I was going to be somebody, if I wanted to live someone else's life, if I wanted to be that other person, I would want to be that other person. I wouldn't just want to wake up and be them and not be who they are. I mean, I'd want to be, otherwise I wouldn't, like, what would be the point of being them? So I would want to be them. You know, I think if I'd want to be somebody like totally different than me. Maybe like Toshiro Mifune. You know, I'd like to be a great Japanese actor. I think that would be fun. I mean, what was it like to be Toshiro Mifune? What was it like to work with Akira Kurosawa in so many movies? I mean, I would love that. That's why I'd want something like that. Or I'd like to, and still, you know, I'd be living in Japan, so it's relatively new. And he would have seen, like, the advent of Japanese animation. I could have watched all the Super Robot shows in the 70s when they were first broadcast. And I'd speak Japanese, which is a big bonus. But in terms of somebody choosing my life, but you know, I wouldn't sell my soul to Lucifer, to be honest. I wouldn't do that because there's no you don't come back from that. Your soul is damned. Like, once you've sold your soul to Lucifer, man, that's it. You don't get to, your soul is eternally damned. So I don't know if I would do that. But either Chloe Grace Moretz or Dakota Fanning. I have to be one of the three choices here. So I picked Toshiro Mifune for my thing. But the other one, if I woke up with that next person not in their life, I wouldn't dig that. I wouldn't dig that. I wouldn't make that choice. But I want to be Toshiro Mifune, and I want his life. Scott K sends in a tip and says, not as good with my Star Trek canon as I am with others. But was dilithium used in Zephram Cochrane's Phoenix? I haven't seen the show, but I would figure someone would have figured out an alternative to dilithium in the future timeline of Discovery. Oh, don't get me started. As far as I remember, no, there's no dilithium in the Phoenix. There is not. But yes, I mean, as we all know from our Star Trek The Next Generation, the Romulans used controlled singularities to power their ships. They didn't use dilithium. Lots of people didn't use dilithium. That's why, as I was saying yesterday, Star Trek Discovery is a monumental failure of the imagination, and there's very little understanding of the Star Trek universe in Picard or in Discovery. So there you go. The Bonfoglio Soprano sends in a tip and says, 7 minutes. Why did it have to be 7 minutes of credits at the end of the latest episode of WandaVision? Give me more now. I'm weak. Please drop all your episodes now. I've changed my mind. Please, Feige. Please, your friend, Patrick Anthony Bonfoglio Soprano. Look, I felt the same way, man. When today's episode of WandaVision was over, I was like, wait, that's it? It was a pretty epic episode, chock full of deliciousy goodness. Now, I've been having people that are members of the channel, I've been having chats. We're going to have a member chat tomorrow. It's going to be all spoilers about Wanda. We're going to talk about it. Tell me what you think. So there you go. I loved it. And it's got so many intriguing ideas in it. Just the stuff, half the shit that Quicksilver was saying. I'm like, oh, wait, what? That's intriguing. How do you know all of this? I mean, yes. I'm very excited. Willow says, all the crazy stuff aside, the latest episode of WandaVision has seriously made me feel nostalgic. I really want to watch some Malcolm in the Middle now. Have you seen any of that show? I used to love Malcolm in the Middle. Frankie Muniz starred in Agent Cody Banks, a movie I was a producer on, and I thought that was the coolest thing. But I love Malcolm in the Middle. Malcolm in the Middle was such a fun show, and it totally did that. I mean, they're nailing it again. I thought, okay, it's episode 6, and they're doing the whole trope of, that again, the sitcom-y thing. I mean, does it work? It did work. It worked really well, and I have to say, Elizabeth Olsen, I never thought I would think that this costume would work well on anybody. Man, did she pull it off? Yes, she did. I really loved it. Anonymous sends in a tip and says, I just ordered my Ben Shapiro action figure. Do they make one? Maybe they do. Does it come with a bunch of different interchangeable YouTube headlines that says Ben Shapiro owns liberal snowflake? So you can choose which thing to put him up with. Sister Harrow is here. Sister Harrow sends in a tip and a super chat and says, "Hey Rob, contribution to your Hot Toys addiction." Ooh, that addiction. There's a couple things coming. You know what? I can honestly say I will put that toward, and I'll show you which one it is. I don't have it yet, but I do. Matthew Smith sends in a tip and says, my first letter to you is about Starship toys. I'm starting a channel to review items in my collection. One thing I want to focus on is the BTS design history for the ships. Any resources you can recommend? Oh my God, we'll start out with ships from Trek and Star Wars. Oh, well, yeah. There's a lot of amazing, by the way, the Huge. There's a lot of amazing, that was a special message I just threw out there. There's a lot of amazing books. Eagle Moss Collectibles is putting out, with each one of their ships, they come with those little booklets. They have collected booklets that you can get, but there's all kinds of, the cutaway references for ships, or the Star Wars visual guides have a lot of great information in them. Those are great books. And tell me about your stuff. Also, if I might recommend another YouTube channel, check out Trek Yards. Trek Yards is great. Really, really good. Jason S. sends in a tip and says, Disney is full of shit. Pedro Pascal 3 months ago called half the country Nazis, and a Disney producer called for MAGA children to be thrown into wood chippers, then put up a graphic of blood and coming out of a chipper. This is called liberal privilege. Well, it's also called rhetoric, and yeah, I think that and look at Disney's own business policies. There's a lot of hypocrisy going on. And what can I say? I mean, I don't necessarily think there's liberal privilege. I mean, you're coming from a place the liberals are all bad. So you've decided liberals are all bad, and you've pulled these examples. I mean, the fact of the matter is, we're not all bad. Liberals are not all bad. Republicans are not all bad. Conservatives are not all bad. We're all just people, and we've all got different needs and different wants and different desires. But, I think we all want the same thing. We all want to be able to grow up as happy, healthy people and be able to provide for our families. And there's a baseline which we have to talk, which we should be able to talk to each other from. And remember, it's not like people don't know what Disney's all about. They've been all about the same thing for my entire life, so it shouldn't be surprising. Power is power. Sends in a super chat. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Jason S. goes on and says, this shows how terrible the trans community usually always is. They demanded she put her pronouns in her bio, and she refused, and they've been on a crusade ever since to have this strong woman fired from her job in retaliation for refusing their demands. Well, first of all, let me just say, the people that I know in the trans community, and some of them are part of this community, are incredibly lovely people. And despite some telling really bad jokes, but I love them anyway. The terrible the trans community actually usually is. What do you base that on? The trans community is not terrible. There's people in every community that can be terrible. There's not just a single person or groups of people And I think I'll tell you something else. I think it's not just the trans community that gets angry with somebody not putting pronouns in their bios. I don't even know why that even started. I actually personally know, I have friends that are trans that I know that I've actually met, and I have never once, by any trans person, been asked to call them by any pronouns. The trans people that I know, they want me to think of them as either a man or a woman. That's how they want, and I do. And I actually think of them that way. The trans women that I know, I don't think of them as trans women. They're just women to me. And actually, I don't know any trans men, to be honest. But the trans women I know are just women. I don't even think of them as trans women. I just think of them as women. And I've never once been told by them anything about pronouns, ever. And it's every community. Every community is always up in arms about something. And again, we just got to all calm down and, chill out and be respectful. You know what? All anybody wants is to be respected. That's all anybody wants. They just want to be treated like a human being and given the same they just want to be treated the way you treat anybody else. That's all anybody wants. Whether you're trans or whether you're religious or whether you're whatever color you are, people just want to be treated like people. That's all they want. That's all they've ever wanted. It's such a simple thing. Why can't we just treat people like normal people? I think the problem is when you say the trans community. Well, I understand it. I get why we have to label that because it comes from there. But it's not just the trans community asking people to use pronouns. It all comes from there are groups of people that want other people that haven't, either they've been marginalized or they haven't been treated well. They're just ultimately, remember where that comes from. The use of pronouns, it's just trying to be respectful of who people are. That's it. And if somebody, in my mind, if somebody wants to be called by a certain pronoun or something, I'll call them that. I'm like, if you would like me to call you this, I will call you this. I don't have a problem doing that. What I do have a problem with is if it's mandated by law. That's the problem. And I think that's the thing that people, don't understand. It's the whole idea of compelled speech. There's the problem. But all anybody really wants, what this all is about is just treating people with kindness and treat them like normal human beings. As far as the trans community goes, the trans community just wants to be treated like a normal person. If you're a trans woman, you know how you wanted to be treated? Like a woman. Like how you would treat any woman. How would any woman be treated? Just treat her that way. Or a trans man, just treat him like a dude. That's it. They just want to be treated like normal people, as everybody does. It's so hard. Like, why is it so difficult for us to treat people like you treat everybody else? But anyway, OG sends in a super chat. Thanks, OG. You didn't. Very nice. Thank you for supporting the channel in that way. I very much appreciate it. Mexican Iron Man. My man R&B, a.k.a. the professor, doth share the knowledge and perspective, but stands by his moral and ethical standards. Hail the PGS, honor and civility, strength and honor. We watched Gladiator last night. Thank you. I appreciate that. Look, I try and do that. And like I said, every person that you meet has a story to tell. The fact is, everybody has a story to tell. Everybody's coming from different perspectives. I'll tell this story one more time. Growing up as a liberal, left-leaning Jew in a Jewish household, going to religious school, Jews are kind of like democratic by nature, for the most part, at least where I come from. Reform Jews, conservative Jews, maybe even. My mom told me she voted for Donald Trump this year. And I was like, what? And my mom is what they call a one-issue voter. My mom is 81 years old. Her biggest issue is she's not on any government assistance. She has her money and she has her investments and she has everything she needs to live for the rest of her life. But her concern is, and this is what I said, Mom, why did you vote for Donald Trump? What has he possibly done for you? And my mom had a really good answer. My mom said, well, under the Trump administration, my stock portfolio and my investments, my money has increased. And I don't know how long I'm going to live here, but her father lived to be 97, which means my mother could have 16 years, if not more years of life left to her. And like my grandfather, he was very, very healthy until 2 days before he died. He had a heart attack and was in the hospital, and they wouldn't operate on him, so he passed away. But my mom is thinking that way. She's like, my money might have to hold out for another 16 years, if not more. And for her money went up during the Trump administration. Does my mom care about anything other than that? No. Is that right or wrong? Not for me to judge. But all I know is that that's what my mom told me, and I couldn't argue with her. I'm like, I'm not rich. Maybe if I'll make a movie one day and earn millions of dollars, I could perhaps take care of my mom and she wouldn't have to vote for Donald Trump. But that's why she voted for Donald Trump. So I would be like, I understand that. And I think there's a lot of people like that voted for Donald Trump for various reasons that you hear and you're like, can't argue with that. And you can't get, I might have disagreed with her, but I couldn't disagree with her premise. So I think it's important. And I will always stand up for ethical standards. And you know what? Got to have cogent discourse. You got to think about, what if you were locked in a room with somebody for a week? Somebody you hated. And the only way you're going to get out of that room is if the two of you found some common ground and worked together to escape. Could you do it? I mean, that's kind of where we're at right now as a country. Why don't we just... it's not so hard to figure out common ground. It's like people have become... It's like seething hatred is easier. It makes you feel good. Feel the hate flow. No, you don't want to feel the hate flow. So, David Crabtree, the very talented David Crabtree, is here. Disney can fire who they want, but it's the hypocrisy of Disney pretending it was some high moral decision when at the same time they currently employ and defend people who have recently made racist and disgusting posts and statements on social media. Can't argue with you there. I agree with you 100%. It's pretty, the hypocrisy, that's a problem. And it's a problem across the board. I don't like hypocrisy. I don't like it, but you're absolutely right. And what's going to happen then and there, I don't know. Mr. Torrance sends in a tip and says, "Evening, Rob. Have you ever read Stephen King's 7-book saga, The Dark Tower?" I have. It was nightmarishly adapted into a movie a few years back. Normally when you'd say a Stephen King movie was nightmarishly adapted, that would be a good thing. But in the case of The Dark Tower, nightmarish meaning that was all of my nightmares about what would happen to a Dark Tower adaptation coming true. A spectacular failure, even if you haven't read the books. I'm hoping for a future TV series with the tone of Game of Thrones. They've tried. They've tried. They have absolutely tried to make that series. And for whatever reason, they can't. They got the books right there. You would think that after things like Lord of the Rings should be your guidepost right up ahead. There's the signpost up ahead. Not the Twilight Zone, but here's how you adapt something. You adapt the books. There you go. Lord of the Rings. I agree. I agree with you. And I love the Dark Tower books. I think they're a lot of fun. I bought the Donald Grant, the actual limited edition books. I bought those. I had the original Dark Tower. 200 Watt Studio sends in a super chat and says, "Thank you, Rob. People just don't get it." Now, I think that, I don't know if people don't get it. I just think they need to stop for a minute and take stock in their lives and be like, okay, where are we at? What are we doing? How can we help? But yeah, it's a nuanced debate, and there are things that we should stop and really think about on both sides. So, Sister Harrow sends in another. Oh, you've rounded out that you've sent me another super chat, which means, you know what? That's almost worthy of a pre-order for a new figure, as Justin would say. Will Blackburn sends in a super chat and says, "Rob, I've been listening to you for a few months now. You're a professional. Hats off, brother." Well, thank you, Will Blackburn. I appreciate that. I try and be. Sometimes I'm not as professional as I would like to be, but I try. Look, to be a professional in the world is to see nuance and understand. One of the things that working in independent cinema has taught me, being that it's really hard, and you hear lots of people say no. You need to learn to work with all different kinds of people, and it can be hard sometimes. And when you've tried, to me, one of the great things about making movies, not just for me, but for anybody, it's an inherently optimistic act. Because at the end of the day, you're hoping, and making movies is insanely difficult, and making good movies is even more difficult than that. But it's an inherently optimistic act, because at the end of the day, you believe that a bunch of disparate people with different disciplines and desires and wants and hopes and dreams are going to be able to come together and make something that's greater than the sum of their parts. And one of my favorite things about movie making is all of those crazy, wacky, nutty folks who will do this, whether they're getting paid or not, that they will come together and share this collective dream with you. And everybody wants to give it their all. And yes, it's fraught with peril because there's a lot of egos involved and you're dealing with creative people. So to be able to navigate that water, you have to be professional. You have to be open to listening. You have to be open to listening to people. And you have to understand that, you know, on a movie set, everybody believes that their position on the set, if you're talking to your hair and makeup people, well, that's the most important position on the set. The camera crew, well, we're the most important people on the set. Like everybody, because they're all doing their job, and they all know if any one of those departments falters, then everybody falters. So I think that's what working in film has sort of taught me. So yeah. Jason S. says, let's not even forget that Disney sung the praises of the Chinese Nazis in the credits of their Mulan movie for letting them film next to concentration slave camps being run in China. Fuck Disney, as their company is run by Nazi supporters. Jason, here's the thing. China's human rights record is abysmal. That much is certain. But you know, is it Disney's do we expect every company in the world? How many American companies are doing business in China? How many? And we all know their poor human rights record. The fact is, China is the manufacturing capital of the world, and whatever China was doing from a business standpoint, you have to do business with China. We have to, otherwise, what are you going to do? Say no? How much paper do they own on this country? And it's not only Disney. The hypocrisy runs far and deep in this country. The fact is, we were willing to put the almighty dollar ahead of human rights, and it is a problem. It's not just a problem with Disney, but you know what? If you're going to pillory Disney for this, you're going to pillory 100 million other American companies for doing so. Do I think it's right or wrong? I think China's human rights record's wrong, but I think China is and I think the Chinese, their communist system is wrong. Their whole governmental system is wrong, but they are a world superpower. And rightly or wrongly, we're going to have to figure out a way to deal with them. I mean, we try and do that every day. Is it Disney's place? I mean, Disney's desire was to go make a movie about Mulan. That's what they were trying to do. Are they a political entity? Who's to say? I think at least they're going to China to try and, if they're going to culturally appropriate one of the great Chinese myths, at least they go to China to do it. I mean, look, I don't mean to be flippant, and you're not necessarily wrong, but again, how are we? We live in a very nuanced, very difficult world sometimes, and I don't presume to have all the answers for that one. Stan W sends in a super chat and says, "Here's how it starts: sit up straight, good. Now you're doing great, but your neighbor is not. Keep an eye on them. You're fantastic, and you're better than your neighbor." Or put pronouns in your bio. Yeah, when you start telling people what they should and shouldn't do in their own bios, you've lost. Not only that, we've lost. Why do people have to do that? Because you want them to? I agree with you. I think it's bad. Templar University says, "Hey Rob, random remark. I feel like if the cancel culture existed during the Civil War, the war would never have ended." That you're probably right about that. I mean, what's amazing to me is the cancel culture. What I find the most fascinating about all of it is that what do these people think should happen when you go after somebody to cancel them? Like the whole Fire Gina Carano brigade. What do you want to happen to her? Do you want her to be destitute and homeless and with nowhere left to turn than a needle? What do you want to have happen to her? Like I said earlier, do you want her grandmother that's in an assisted living facility that she is paying for, that Gina's paying for, to not have the money to pay for her grandmother's care? It's amazing to me that people, and you see it mostly in America, that we have a population of people that want to destroy the life of another person. Why? Where did that impulse come from? And the thing is, if you've got that impulse on social media, all you have to do is be pushed a little further to make that kind of thing happen in real life. What happens when that mob that's all frothy with righteous indignation finds someone? I mean, we saw it. Look, what happened to the Capitol? We had a group of your friends and neighbors, normal people, calling to hang Vice President Pence. I mean, when you see that, it's like, how far are we away from that? How far are we away? So if anybody out there asks themselves, if you start, I would say to everybody who goes on social media and calls for the firing of anyone, shame on you. Shame on you for doing that. Who are you to do that to the livelihood or of your fellow human being? Who are you? I mean, I just don't understand it at all. Where does some get off? Chris Provoto says, hello, Robintonian. Happy to see you're still holding up well. Just checking. I mailed a book to your fan address 2 or 3 months ago. Have you had a stream of mail opening lately? I have not, but that will be coming. Keep safe and thank you. Well, Chris, I will watch out because I will, in fact, have another. Those are always fun. People love those. Senora Sheesh is here. I used to watch reruns of Three's Company as a child. I loved John Ritter. When I saw him in Hero at Large, I was hooked. The movie played on TV and I was about 4. The scene where he gets shot in the arm traumatized me. Not everyone is Superman. I'm glad you saw the movie. I saw that movie. I saw that movie in a theater. I really liked it. I love Hero at Large. Torrin Atkinson is here. Serious question. Have you been eating enough fiber? Yes, I have. Thank you very much. I'm very regular, which I very much appreciate at this late stage in life. And was that a reference to the oral knots, or do you think my face is looking like a big grape that's going to explode? Stubble McShave says, I rewatched 3 Days of Condor and The Hunt for Red October, and it made me think of mundane and movie world. 3 Days is firmly in the mundane world, and I must say that Max von Sydow portrays the most believable assassin. In what world do you think Red October is? Okay, Stubble's talking about, we were talking about like different kinds of movies. Do movies take place in the real world or like movie world? Like, do they feel real? 3 Days of the Condor absolutely feels like it takes place in the real world. It's shot like it does. It feels like it does. I mean, one of the great things in 3 Days of the Condor is when he goes back to his office and everybody in his office is like dead. It absolutely feels naturalistic and it's amazing. I think Red October takes place more in movie world. It's more of a movie, but still. By the way, 3 Days of the Condor would be great for whining. It would, and you probably know, or if you haven't watched it, I did get that recently on 4K, thanks to Dieter Bastian. Justin Jorgensen is here, one of 3. So after watching your show for so long, I finally did it. And I finally started watching Star Trek, the original series, and I'm so ashamed I did not enjoy it. To me, it felt corny, cheesy, outlandish, and I don't love the characters. It also felt old, which isn't the show's fault, but unfortunately have been graced and spoiled with CGI and epic battle scenes and effects that are top-notch, but it wasn't that. I just couldn't get into it. It felt like a chore to watch and that it sucked. However, then I went on to watch TNG, and I loved it. I absolutely love this show and its cast and its characters. Picard, Riker, Data, all of them. It's definitely a fresh start after TOS, which I appreciate so much. There are TOS references, but that's it. I now love Star Trek. Well, see, Justin, there you go. You don't have to love TOS, and in fact, it is old. It's It's 55 years old this year, actually. So it's okay. I don't begrudge you for it. DKG Custom says, looking forward to the climax of the IICFF. Ooh, I've started. Dice are rolling in that regard. The film festival is going to finally wrap up. I'm starting to record interviews with the finalists, the semifinalists actually, and judges' ballots have gone out to some. So it's coming. Scotty R37 says, you have a TARDIS. Would you prefer as a companion Jessica 6 from Logan's Run, Judge Anderson from Dread, or Kamala from TNG's The Perfect Mate? You know what? I'm going to take Jessica 6 from Logan's Run. Jenny Agutter for the win. Because she's so sweet. And everybody, on that note, you know what? I'm going to end on Jessica 6, which is amazing. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gentle being, kind souls, however you identify across the 28 known galaxies, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank my moderating staff. I want to say, Fred Durant sends in a super chat. Thank you, Fred. Well, actually, a lot of people just sent in a bunch of super chats. I guess I'm not done yet. So, Fred Durant, thank you for that. Ziggy sends in a super chat. What is your opinion on the Dreadstar comic book? Is that where you got your name, Syzygy Darklock, from? I love Dreadstar. As a matter of fact, let's see. Oh, no, I moved it. Oh, wait a minute. Let me see. Hang on. Wait. I moved it. Hang on. Do I have it? Yeah, I can't get to it. I have a great hardcover of the first 12 issues of Dreadstar, but I have the entire run. I mean, I love Peter David took it over, but I'm like the Jim Starlin Dreadstar fan. I love Dreadstar, Metamorphosis Odyssey. I think it's great. Vanth Dreadstar. Where's the Dreadstar series? Why don't they make that? I want to see that. Armani Martinez sends in a super chat and says, in a Justice League sequel, could we see Batman as Hellbat? We could, but would we want to? I have to say, man, I never thought that I would live in a world where Granny Goodness was in a movie. That preview that Zack Snyder tweeted today had Granny Goodness in it. Jack Kirby's Fourth World for the win. I mean, is there going to be scenes on Apocalypse on this thing? I mean, wow, I can't wait. Electron Star Collapse says, do you know of a good action figure of June the Swan from Science Ninja Team Gatchaman? You know what? I just ordered a Gatchaman model kit. There are many. There are many action figures of Battle of the Planets, but you know what? To be honest, right off the bat, that's a good question. Let's look up and see if there is one. I wonder if Metacom. Ooh, I'm looking at this. Yeah, yes, the one that I actually have one. Now, is this the Medic? That's Cara. $520. Oh my God. I have I have a real action. I'll show you the one I have. Let's see. Metacom Real Action Hero. But mine's like 20 years old. Yes. So this is the one I have. And it's a 12-inch it is a 12-inch figure. It's on eBay. It's only $180. It's cheap. But this one here, I'll put it in the live chat. This one is I mean, it's old, so I wouldn't get this one, but this is not this is not the one that I have, actually. This is the Takara one. This is not. Oh, it is Metacom. I have a different one, but there is one. This one probably doesn't have broken limbs, so if you wanna get this one, you could. So there you go. But those $219, that's not that bad. But there you go. They are out there. There's a bunch of different ones. Stub McShave says, I knew this wouldn't happen, but I'd like to have seen a Married with Children episode of WandaVision. Vision could have been a frustrated shoe salesman, and Agnes could play the role similar to Marcy. Won't happen in this politically correct climate. Yeah, I know. I agree with you. Alexander Wilson says, Don Cheadle calls cancel culture a fabrication and says those who cry about being canned have a long history of poor behavior and don't fall out of favor for just one controversial comment. I don't know if I believe that. I think they can, but I think there's some truth to it. No one just, you've got to have, you don't get fired from a job for just one controversial comment. I totally agree with that. Armani Martinez, since the new gods are introduced, what does this mean? Well, I mean, Steppenwolf was part of the new gods. I guess it means that the new gods are coming. I don't think that Anna DuVernay is going to be making those incarnations of the new gods, but maybe he'll sneak Mr. Miracle and Big Barda in there. Wouldn't that be cool? I would love to see that. But anyway, I'm ending this stream. I want to say thank you to my moderating staff, to Mike Bodden. I want to say thanks to The Richard and everybody else. Bunyan Snipe is here. Joshua Levesque is here. Robert Pariso is here. The Richard is here. And I want to remind everybody you can go to the Post-Geek Singularity Facebook page where there's listening parties and all kinds of stuff going on. There's the Whining About Movies Facebook page, the Let's Get Physical Media Facebook page, and the Fully Articulated Facebook page. Go check those out. I want to thank everybody for generously supporting the channel via super chats and tips and all that. Smash that like button. Subscribe, hit the little notification bell and all that. You already know that. I always forget to say that. But I want to thank you anyway. Remember, these shows are available as podcasts wherever you can get your podcasts in audio form. You can find them on Amazon and Apple and all of those things. So they are available. So get them wherever you want. So you can do that and just listen to the audio version of it, which is pretty neat. And on that note, I would like to say to you, remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And we will be back tomorrow with Robservations, a show about something, and maybe Whining About Movies, where we're going to take a look at The Color Purple, because sister, you've been on my mind. So yes, the great Quincy Jones did the score for The Color Purple. We're going to watch it as Bats Maru, one of our friends, Bats Maru, suggested that we watch Color Purple for Black History Month, and I think we're going to do that based on Alice Walker's great novel, starring a cast of all of your favorite actors, including a young Larry Fishburne is in that. Of course, Oprah Winfrey is in that. And obviously Whoopi Goldberg in her big debut performance, who, by the way, should have won the Academy Award, by the way, just saying. I know she won it for Ghost. We talked about that earlier, but she should have won her her Oscar for playing Miss Seeley in Color Purple. That's what I say. But anyway, come back for that. And now I end Robservations, episode number 519, the show about something, and I say to all of you, have a better day.